Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name's Matthew. This story is about the moment I realized I had to draw a clear line in my relationship. When my girlfriend looked me straight in the eye and told me to apologize to her male best friend, the guy who had crashed our date night, which was supposed to be just for us. That's when I knew I wasn't going to keep swallowing things to avoid conflict. I told her right there, you need to choose, him or me. But here's the thing. You can't really understand why that one moment pushed me over the edge unless you know what led up to it. It started from the very beginning of the relationship. So before we get to the end, let me take you back to where it all began. Because that part plays a big role in everything. Back then, I met my girlfriend, Jasmine, during a quiet phase of my life. We met through a mutual friend at a party. We started talking more after that, and it didn't take long before we were spending weekends together. The connection between us was real. But from the very beginning, there was one part of her life that didn't sit well with me. She had a male best friend, Alan. Now, let me be clear. I'm not the jealous type. But the way Jasmine talked about Alan made me feel uneasy. She'd mention him in casual conversations, like Alan and I watched that movie together. Or Alan gave me advice about this. At first, I told myself not to overthink it. So I stayed quiet. But the more I learned about their connection, the more it bothered me. Jasmine and Alan had known each other since they were kids, same neighborhood, same schools. Apparently, they'd always been close and talked every day. Sometimes they hung out, just the two of them. And Alan? He wasn't exactly subtle about inserting himself into her world. One evening, I finally brought it up. I told Jasmine honestly that Alan made me uncomfortable. I asked if she'd consider setting some boundaries or even stepping back from that friendship a bit now that we were serious. She laughed and said, "You're being silly. Alan's like a brother to me. He's never even looked at me that way." Then she added that cutting him off wasn't an option because they had been friends their whole lives. I sat there, quiet, just nodding. I didn't want to come off as the overbearing boyfriend. So even though I didn't like it, I let it go. I told myself that maybe I needed to trust her more. Looking back now, I should have listened to my gut. But back then, I just wanted peace. I wanted to believe that love would sort it all out. And that's how the story started, with me trying to be understanding, while Alan stayed very much in the picture. Still, as time passed, I started noticing how often Alan inserted himself into our space. It wasn't just occasional texts or casual check-ins. This guy would text her nonstop, even late at night, especially when he knew she was with me. If we were having a quiet evening together, you could bet her phone would light up with a message from him, or she'd excuse herself to take a quick call that ended up dragging longer than expected. One particular moment really stuck with me. I had picked up her phone to check the time or maybe look up something. I can't even remember exactly why. But a notification message was on the screen. It was from Alan, and he casually called my girlfriend babe, alongside other messages. I stared at it, wondering what kind of platonic friendship calls each other that, especially when they know she's in a relationship. Later, I brought it up to Jasmine. I wasn't even angry at first. I just needed to understand. But she laughed. "You're jealous," she said. "Alan's just being Alan. He's going through a rough time, and I'm one of the few people he leans on." That was her excuse every time I questioned the nature of their closeness. "He's struggling. He needs support. It's not what you think." But to me, it was exactly what I thought. The signs were right in front of me. And so I told her straight, "I think this guy might low-key want to tear us apart." Of course, she dismissed that too, like I was being paranoid. But the question kept echoing in my mind. If Alan really just needed a friend, why didn't he find his own girlfriend? Why did he always have to be so close to mine? I don't believe in cutting people off from their friends or micromanaging who they talk to. But the tension was building inside me. So I chose to play it cool, to avoid unnecessary conflict. But deep down I knew I was just delaying the inevitable. So here's where things started to get really frustrating for me. I made a conscious decision to try and be civil with Alan, even though I had a bad feeling about him from the start. I figured maybe if I showed Alan some respect and tried to be friendly, things would ease up. Maybe he'd back off a little, or, at the very least, stop trying to act like he had more of a claim on Jasmine than I did. That was me being hopeful, naive even. So, I started making small efforts. I invited him into conversations when it made sense. I wanted to believe that if I treated him like a friend, he'd respect the boundary of my relationship with Jasmine. But instead, all I did was open the door wider for him to step in, and not in a good way. The more friendly I was, the bolder Alan became. It was like he took my civility as some kind of invitation to insert himself even more into my relationship. He started calling Jasmine even more often, especially when he knew I was with her. Texts would come in late at night. If Jasmine and I were out on a date or spending a quiet evening in, somehow Alan would find a reason to pop up, either physically or through her phone. He would coincidentally show up at the same spots we were at. Jasmine would act like it was no big deal, but it felt intentional, like he was always watching for cracks in our time together, so he could slip right in. What made it worse was how he acted when we were all together. He was always bringing up old memories with Jasmine, like he wanted me to feel left out. And I did. I started feeling like a guest in my own relationship. I'd be holding back so much, trying to avoid confrontation, because I didn't want Jasmine to think I was being petty or jealous. But deep down it was eating me alive. Still, I didn't say much. I kept trying to believe that if I stayed calm and respectful, Jasmine would eventually see what I saw, that Alan wasn't just some innocent friend looking out for her, but someone who clearly didn't respect our relationship. But instead of pulling away, she stayed blind to it, or maybe she just chose to ignore it. It was a few weeks before Jasmine's birthday, and I had been thinking hard about how to make the day special for her. Things between us had felt a little distant lately. She'd been swamped with work, and we hadn't had a proper weekend together in a while. I missed us just being us. So I decided I was going to make her birthday about that. I told her I had a surprise plan for her birthday, and I made it clear right from the start. I wanted this to be our moment, just the two of us. I didn't want anyone else tagging along. She agreed without hesitation and told me she was looking forward to it. So I went ahead and made the arrangements. I booked a dinner at her favorite restaurant, a cozy little place she loved downtown. But I didn't stop there. I specifically called ahead and asked for a table with the best view. She always said it was her favorite part of the place. I made sure we got it. To me, it wasn't just dinner. It was a way to reconnect, to pull us back together after all those weekends. She said she was tied up with meetings. I honestly thought this would be the kind of night we'd both remember for a long time. But I had no idea it would be the night that changed everything. When I picked her up that evening, she was looking beautiful. We got to the restaurant, got seated, and everything just clicked. We were laughing, chatting, easing back into each other's rhythm like we used to. The waiter brought out our appetizers, and I thought, yes, this is exactly what we needed. Then, halfway through the appetizers, mid-conversation, I noticed someone walking toward our table. My stomach dropped the second I saw who it was. Alan, Jasmine's male best friend. I immediately knew this wasn't a coincidence. He wasn't just happening to be at the same restaurant. This wasn't one of those random bump-ins you just laugh off. Still, I held on to a shred of hope that maybe he was just going to say a quick hello and be on his way. I looked at her, waiting for her to tell him, politely, that tonight was meant to be just the two of us. But she didn't. But instead, Jasmine pulled up an empty chair beside her and said, "Sit with us." She noticed the anger slowly rising on my face, and she smiled. Then she leaned in and casually said, "I asked him to come around since he was free." Like that explained everything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't just poor judgment. This was flat-out disrespect. The moment she said that, the entire night shifted. Alan stayed for the whole meal. He talked over me whenever I tried to speak. He'd cut me off like I wasn't even there. He'd make these little jokes that were clearly digs at me, and Jasmine would laugh. I sat there, fork in hand, nodding, pretending to be calm. But on the inside, I was boiling. I didn't say much. I felt like a guest at my own girlfriend's birthday dinner. Like I was tagging along while she and her real favorite person caught up. And still, She didn't see anything wrong with what was happening. After dinner, things were quiet, but not in a peaceful way. Jasmine and I walked to the car. Alan, of course, didn't come with us. He went his own way. As we got close to the car, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I turned to her and asked, "Why did you invite him to our date night?" I needed an answer. She didn't even seem surprised by the question. "He's my best friend," she said flatly. "He just wanted to join." Then she went a step further and accused me of being rude to Alan all night. That one hit me like a slap. I sat through that entire dinner in silence while he dominated the conversation and interrupted me. And now I was the bad guy? I told her as calmly as I could. "He disrespected our time, and you let him." She stared at me and said the one thing that completely shattered me. "You should apologize to him. You made things awkward." For a moment, I didn't even respond. I turned to her and said, "I'm done pretending this is okay. You need to choose him or me." That was the final spark. She snapped, started yelling, asking if I was really giving her an ultimatum, called me controlling, insecure, all the words people use when they want to shut down a conversation instead of facing it. I told her, "It's not an ultimatum. I'm just tired of being insulted because of this guy." She didn't choose me. Instead, she went quiet. I got into the driver's seat, started the car, and left her there. I didn't ask how she'd get home. I didn't text to check later. I was done trying to fight for someone who kept making me feel like I was the outsider in my own relationship. The next morning, I woke up to a long message from her. And I wish I could tell you it was an apology or some kind of acknowledgement. But no, it was full of blame. She told me everything was my fault, that I ruined the night, that I was insecure and jealous. She made it clear she wasn't going to cut off her friendship with Alan because of my issues. And reading that, it just confirmed everything I already felt. She wasn't ready to put me first, wasn't even willing to see things from my side. So I replied with a simple message. "I wish you well, but I won't fight to stay where I'm not valued." Then I blocked her number. I stopped taking calls or updates from mutual friends who tried to bring me gossip about her. I needed to move on. Months had gone by. I won't lie and say it was easy, but with time, the silence between me and Jasmine became normal. I had made my peace. Then one day, out of nowhere, I got a message. It came from an unsaved number. At first, I thought it might be spam or one of those mass texts you get from some app you never signed up for. But something about the way it started, it felt familiar. And then I saw her name. It was Jasmine. She said, "Hey, can we talk?" I stared at the message for a while, but I didn't even think twice. I typed back, "No," but she didn't stop there. She kept messaging. She said she just wanted a few minutes, that she didn't expect anything from me, just that I'd listen. I still wasn't comfortable talking, so I refused to take her call. I didn't want to hear her voice trying to smooth things over. So instead, she sent a long text. And when I say long, I mean it looked like a novel. I almost didn't read it, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened it, and what she said hit differently. She told me that after we ended things, she and Alan tried dating. She didn't give a ton of details, but it was clear it fell apart fast. Apparently, all the "he's like a brother to me" energy went out the window once I was gone. According to her, during one of their blow-ups, Alan admitted something that made her stomach drop. He told her, word for word, that he had always wanted to break us up, that even if she never chose him in the end, he'd be satisfied as long as she wasn't with me. Reading that, it didn't make me feel good, because I had seen this coming from the beginning. I had warned her, and I was made to feel like the jealous, insecure guy. So I replied with another message. "Good for you." That was all I had left to give. I didn't let the conversation continue. I didn't open a space for more back and forth. Before she could type another word, I ended it with, "Don't ever contact me again." And I blocked the number, for good this time. So now I ask you, what would you have done in my shoes? Do you think I was wrong for walking away? Let me know in the comments.